Hey guys, welcome to the show. And today we're going to continue the series we started in the last video when we talked about top mistakes that young professionals make as they start their career. Today I want to focus on the professional mistakes. So stick around. Okay, let's get into it. And in no particular order, I'm just gonna run through a couple of mistakes that young professionals make when they start their career. I like to start with this one because I think it's one of the top ones. It's not negotiating your compensation. You accept the first offer that's given to you. As much as it sounds uh, tricky, because I mean, when you're in an environment that seems to be an employer's market, there are a lot of young graduates on the street who are looking for jobs, and perhaps the employer could actually just go out there and get somebody else. It sounds like a tricky advice to tell you not to accept the first offer because the principle here is do not always accept the first offer. But negotiation is something that you learn on as you go. And one of the things that you have to do when you're negotiating for roles is understand that the moment you have been selected by the company, it means that you have passed all their checks and they want you. And then you have some room, depending on the company, to actually negotiate. It doesn't have to be a lot because oftentimes in the process of interviewing you and selecting you for the role, they have actually asked you what sort of salary you want. And if they have given you the figure you asked for, then fantastic. If you give them a range and they've given you something in that range, but it's lower than the midpoint, there's room for negotiation. If you've given them a range and they've given you the top of the range, then there's absolutely no need for you to negotiate your salary. But oftentimes you will, and that's why you need to do your own background check and investigation so that you know what sort of range you give to them. I mean, you apply for a job and the range on for professionals in the industry in that role is, let's say, 100 to 150,000 naira a month, and that's what you asked for, 100 to 150,000 a month. That's probably a wide range anyway. I would prefer you say something in the range of 25,000. So say you told them 125,000 to 150,000 a month, and the company decided to give you 128,000 a month. Now there's room for negotiation because the midpoint there would have been somewhere around 137, 138, 139, and even 140. So if the company gives you 128, then you could actually take the offer letter. And don't forget again, that's why it's called an offer letter. In other words, what they have done is they've just given you an offer, and you can either accept or you can reject it. But a lot of young professionals are always scared that, oh, what if I reject this offer letter and then they don't bother coming back to me? It's their loss. But guess what? You need to learn to negotiate. And so it starts from negotiating your compensation. You can actually say, look, I want 5,000 naira more, or I want 10,000 naira more. And you can give them your reasons. I've applied for jobs where I was given offers and I went back and I said, look, I think this is not compared to where I'm coming from and what I'm earning and the potential, what I could potentially be earning if I get a promotion next year or when my salary gets raised, as the company tends to do every year, then this doesn't make any difference. So I'd rather you pay me something in this range, or I believe I deserve an offer in this range, and then the company will either go and come back. So negotiate your compensation. Don't be scared. Don't be scared that the employer will go. The moment they've selected you in the interview, you have actually scaled. It means they like you. It means they want you. So you have room to negotiate. It may not be a lot of room, and you don't have to ask something really wild. But guess what? You have room to negotiate. So negotiate. Another top mistake that I think a lot of young professionals make is when it comes to dressing. Now, depending on the industry you find yourself, there is dressing that is required for your role. Find out that dressing and abide by it. Dressing goes a long way to, create the perception that management and senior executive have of you. It goes a long way to also, spell out the perspective or, create the perception that customers, clients are going to have of you. So that's why even if it's just one good suit you have, make sure you have that good suit always in a good state and ready for work. As a young lady, ensuring that you dress professionally is more important than ensuring you are wearing designer clothes or whatever. The reason why is because for your professional work to be recognized, and I say this recognizing the fact that ladies face a lot more challenges than men when it comes to professional achievement in the workplace. And that's why it's important for you that you dress professionally. Okay? It doesn't have to be the most expensive clothes, it doesn't have to be the the top designers, but whatever you do wear, make sure you dress as professionally as is required by someone in your industry. Um, you know, not to go into specifics regarding how people should dress or people shouldn't dress. The rule is whatever you wear, make sure it's something that ensures that anybody that is engaging you knows that you are all about the job. Don't wear something that's going to create an impression that you are in for something else besides what you're trying to do. Now, what they decide to think about what you're wearing is left to them. But as much as it lies on you, make sure you maintain that line when it comes to decency in your dressing and also professionalism in your dressing. I see a lot of young men who don't pay attention to simple things like polishing your shoe, brushing your hair, hygiene tips, just to ensure that you look presentable at all times. I think one thing that really helped me in my career was the fact that I had to do a lot of media interview. So every time I was dressing in the morning, unlike when I started my career and I just knew that since I was just going to go to the office and the only people that were going to see me were my colleagues at work, it didn't really matter what I wore or how I looked. So yeah, I tried to dress well, but it wasn't a big deal. But when you know you're going to appear on TV and it could happen at an hour's notice, at 2 hours notice that, oh, Donny, Dolapo, we are sorry, but we might need to bring you in to comment on this story. Do you have a minute in the next 1 hour? Now that made it necessary for me to ensure that I always dressed when I was going to work. But guess what? That's how important it is for you as well. You don't know when you might run into someone who might be your future employer. You don't know when you might run into a client who might be very vital to your business. So always dress professionally so that whenever you are called upon to actually present or something. Like I remember one day, I was just in the office and I was called to come and make a presentation to a group of senior people, and I was told I wasn't told who were going to be in the room and all that. And guess what? I showed up for the presentation, and there were the MDs of all the upstream oil and gas companies in Nigeria. There were MDs of consulting firms. They were in the room, and I had to do a presentation. I was shocked, but that was how I was able to build a lot of networking in the industry, because I got their cards, I got their rapport, and we started talking. I could easily call many of them on the phone after that because they enjoyed the presentation and they actually maintained a relationship with me after that. So dress well. You never know when you might be called upon. As a young professional, don't make that mistake of thinking your dressing is just something. You don't get into that routine of we just wake up and we just dress up. No, dress well at all times. Pay attention to your dressing. Make sure your clothes, your shoes are neat. Make sure your shirt, the collars are clean. Make sure your tie is not frayed and down, and you have part of the label loose at the back. Make sure that your whatever you're wearing underneath is well protected. We can talk about dressing in another video, but pay attention to your dressing. As a young man, as a young lady, as a young professional, pay a lot of attention to your dressing. I think another mistake that a lot of young professionals make is running from work. If you work in one of those offices where you get drawn into projects, teams, assignments, and because you're the youngest professional on the team, on the assignment, you get a lot of grunt work. You get a lot of data crunching, data entry, or analytical work that takes a lot of time, and you try to run away from those projects. You're actually taking a step that is detrimental to your career. One of the things that helped me really grow was those sort of projects. I remember one night I had a presentation that was assigned to me on, let's say, Wednesday night, and the presentation had to be ready by Thursday night. And my boss sent it to me. I was like, "Can you do it?" And I was like, "Yeah, I can do it." But guess what? I got home from work that day and I walked all through the night. In fact, I didn't realize it was morning until I heard my neighbor warming his car like he always did in the morning. And I realized, oh my God, I've walked all through the night. And then, of course, the presentation was ready by the morning, and I gave it to my boss, and he was happy with the presentation. So don't run away from those kind of jobs because they are going to require a lot more from you. That stretching is very good for you. I've had to build Excel financial models overnight, and it became so good to me that to the point where it became easy for me to build models. Look, I've had to build models for all sorts of things, from oil fields to gas fields to refineries to power plants. And then in my own personal life, I've helped my own personal clients build models for event management companies, cleaning companies, a tomato paste factory at one point, all sorts of businesses. Why? Because of the experience I got from building models on my professional life. So what are we saying here? Don't run away from those experiences that stretch you. Don't run away from those projects because it's a lot of work. Doesn't mean that it won't end. It will end someday. Another mistake a lot of young professionals make in their early days of their career is when you stop learning. All through your career, learning is the key to growth. So as long as you're learning, you'll be growing. The moment you stop learning, you stop growing. And that's why I tell people it's good to chase jobs that give you a lot of salary, and because you need money. Let's not joke, let's not kid around. But as much as you can, also chase opportunities where you can learn. So look for jobs where you can also learn. And even on the job where you are, keep looking for ways to learn on the job. Take on professional qualifications, professional exams, attend industry meetings and associations, talk to your senior colleagues, senior professionals in the field. Make sure you keep learning. Don't ever get to the point where you think, I know enough about this and I can stop. Look, even as much as I've done in banking and oil and gas, there's still so much I don't know and I keep trying to learn. And that's how you keep growing. As long as you keep learning, you will keep growing. So never stop learning. Never get to a point where you think, I'm now an expert on this field and there's no more, nobody can teach me. Guess what? You can still be taught. You can still learn. Even professors still go back and learn. How much more you? So no matter how many years you have spent in a field, look, I talk about oil and gas a lot. There's still so much I don't know about oil and gas, which I still listen to a lot of experts for because they understand it a lot better. I went to an interview somewhere and I remember I was talking about oil and gas. And guess what? As the manager on the role started to talk about oil and gas, I could see that there was so much I couldn't learn. And that's why when I was offered the job, what I told them was that my number one priority would be to sit down with you and learn as much as I can. And I think that really helped in the interview. And we'll talk about interview tips someday because that really helped to cinch the deal. So what are we saying here? Never stop learning. Always keep learning. Always keep learning. As long as you're learning, you keep growing. Don't make that mistake of getting to a point where you think, I know enough. I don't need any more. Keep learning. Learning is key to growing. Another mistake a lot of young professionals make, which I should talk about, is not having a life outside work. You should have a life outside work. Balance is very good in your life as a young professional. There are so much activities that you should get yourself engaged in outside work. They shouldn't become a distraction to your work, but they help you to create a balance so that your life doesn't all revolve around your job. Because guess what? That job can leave you any day. So what do you fall back on? What do you have outside there? So you should have a life outside work. You should make sure that your family life, you have social events, you attend social events, you belong to a religious group, then attend events in your religious group as well, participate in your religious group. If there are clubs that you can belong to that encourage you in one activity or the other. There are people that belong to cycling clubs, people that belong to running clubs, people that belong to martial art clubs, people that participate in hiking and traveling as a club venture. Do all that as well. Get engaged, get out there. You meet people, you develop relationships, you develop your career as well on the side. So have a life outside work. Don't just be so work focused that there's nothing else to you except your work. Don't be that person that the most important thing and the only thing of importance in your life is your work. Have a life outside work. It's important for balance. They shouldn't overtake your work, but they add balance to your life. Okay? Have a life outside work. Don't make the mistake of becoming so work centric. And this happens to a lot of professionals where they become so work centric that they are unable to cultivate families, they are unable to cultivate relationships. All they think about is their work, and everything that does not assist their work is not important to them. So try and maintain that balance. That balance is key. We'll talk about balance some other day, but as a tip today, try and have a life outside work. Okay, so one last one before I go off. I've got a prayer meeting to join. The last one is burning bridges. It's important that you don't burn bridges because as much as it depends on you, no matter the difficulty you had working in that company or with that employer or no matter how hostile the work environment, a lot of that depends on you to actually remain in relationship with them. And so even if it's just going to be once a year, you send happy birthday, or you send greetings, or you send text messages, try and maintain relationships. Those relationships may be vital to you at some point in your career. And the mere fact that you left in such a hostile way doesn't mean you cannot go back and say, I still appreciate the time I spent in this company, and thank you. And from time to time, you can send messages. It's important. Maintaining those relationships is very key. And don't be someone that just goes around burning bridges. You don't want to create a reputation for yourself in the industry as someone who is difficult to work with, or someone who doesn't value, and loyalty or relationships and so on. So don't burn bridges. As much as it depends on you, don't burn bridges. Okay, young professionals, don't go around burning bridges. So what are the mistakes we talked about today? Not negotiating your salary. Make sure you negotiate your salary. Another one is not dressing well. Make sure you dress well. Another one is, running away from work, thinking that you're helping. Don't run away from work. Another one is burning bridges. Don't burn bridges, especially so early in your career. Don't burn bridges. As you abide by this, I'm sure this will guide you as you build your career. I wish you all the best, young one.